Live from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Jared and Jabo and Iowa Everywhere. Jared Stansberry. Jordan Bohannon. Together on Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, welcome into the podcast from the Channel Seed Studios on Iowa Everywhere. What's up tonight, man? What's going on?
I'm back in my rolly chair, so I'm very happy.
You are done with your first season of professional basketball. How would you feel the experience went overall?
Man, what a grind. That's all I got to say. A lot of ups and downs. But no, seriously, I'm really grateful. I had the opportunity to play in Des Moines. As much shit I got in college and all the job jokes I was getting, mostly from the Iowa State's end. In all seriousness, it was a lot of fun. And I mean, I'm living a dream to playing basketball and making money. Not a lot of people can say they've done that in their lives. And obviously it's not the stage I wanted to play at yet, but played against a lot of NBA players through the process, and it was a dream come true. It really was.
That's dope, man. You any chance you think you could come back next year, or too early to tell? Probably.
I don't know. I've been starting to get a little interest overseas. If there's a right fit, I'll definitely go overseas and pursue that. You know, I mean, I'm turned 26 in June, which is crazy to say. I kind of want to experience the world at this age, and then I don't know. We'll see where the ball takes me. The ball has taken me a lot of incredible places I never thought would ever take me. So, are
you telling me we're gonna have to record the podcast at like 3:00 in the morning?
I might be in China, Jared, and it might be 3 a.m. for you. So yeah, this might be a little hiccup in our Iowa Everywhere broadcasting schedule.
I had a buddy who played in, I think, Budapest. He said it was a horrible experience. So don't go to Budapest.
I don't know if I would go to Budapest. That just doesn't sound safe. Just the name.
Yeah. There's some of those places that it's like, I respect anybody who's trying to make their money to play basketball. But, man, I don't know if you could pay me to go to Czechoslovakia. Like, I don't know.
I don't even know.
I mean, maybe I'm sure the people in Czechoslovakia are nice. I'm sure the Czech people are delightful. But I don't know.
What do you
have a hard time with it?
I'm Czech, and first of all, Czechoslovakia is not a country anymore, so we'll get that off.
The Czech Republic. Excuse me, sorry, I forgot my geopolitical updates after the fall of the Soviet Union. Yeah,
you're just hating on my community over there.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Czech?
Yeah.
Oh, that was I don't know why I randomly pulled that. That was just
a random country. Had a goulash before?
A what?
A goulash?
No.
They're delightful.
Like the Czech people.
Very, very delightful community out there.
Oh, man. There's a lot to get to on tonight's podcast. Some updates to the Iowa men's basketball roster. Of course, the Elite Eight games, the Final Four games coming up this weekend. You want to talk a little bit about breakfast food. But first, let's start with the Iowa women who will play in the Final Four against South Carolina Friday night. What was your reaction to seeing the Hawkeyes get through that second weekend?
Pretty cool to just hear the words Iowa Hawkeyes in the Final Four. I don't think when was it, in the 90s last time the women's went to the
1993.
Yeah, 1993. So really long time. Just really happy for Coach Bluter. I know her personally, and I've had a lot of great interactions with her, and very respectful person, and she's grinded from the trenches to get to this point. You think about how long she's been at Iowa. It's been a while, and she's finally pulled off the team to make this run. That shows a lot of belief that the administration has had in her staff and in her. Just a great family. Really happy for her and her staff, and especially the team. You know, every interaction I've ever had with a women's basketball player at Iowa has always been positive, and they're always very down-to-earth individuals, and it's easy to root for kids like that make it this far.
From your perspective, what is it that makes Caitlin Clark so good?
I mean, where do you start? She's the most skilled women's basketball arguably to ever come through college basketball. And think about the women's players that has come through college sports. mean, you look at South Carolina. Yeah, she's one player of the year last year, but I mean, she's tall, right? She's not like a guard that's able to create shots like Caitlin, able to score off the dribble, able to hit step backs from 34 feet. That's just rare to find in the women's game. And I think what she's been able to do is not only helped her brand individually, but it's helped the game of women's basketball. You see people, even Iowa fans, you see Iowa fans watching women's basketball for the first time ever in their life. And that I think that's directly, obviously you have to thank the staff with Coach Bluter. Caitlin has definitely elevated a level of women's basketball to a point where I don't know, it's almost an interesting argument, Jared. Like you think about the player she is, right? She's elevated to a game, like to a point where, like, how do you replicate? And
She is she's like Tom Brady, LeBron James famous, dude. Like as famous of an athlete as I think there is in the United States right now.
she's trending every single day on Twitter. You look on Twitter, like seriously, I was just on Twitter right before the show, and Caitlin Clark was trending still, just nonstop this whole entire week. And I mean, we look at an NIL perspective. Think about how much money she's generated for herself within the last couple of weeks.
Think how much money she's generated for the University of Iowa in just the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. It's been both ways for how much money has been generated for both ends. And I mean, this is just like a perfect situation for the University of Iowa. Recruiting wise, people getting interested in the game of college basketball for women and supporting the program. Just go to the line how much she's meant to this university. She shouldn't have to pay for a single thing the rest of her life in Iowa City for what she's done. Honestly,
I find it hard to believe she will.
She better
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I think. Do you think they can beat South Carolina? Like, I don't know anything about South Carolina, but I know that they're a juggernaut.
Here's the thing: I don't know hardly anything about. I've watched very scarcely amount of women's basketball this year, but I know South Carolina is 36-0, and that's about it.
Yeah, they have not played very many games that were within even double digits. I think the closest anybody even got to them was UConn. They lost by 4.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch.
It's gonna be a great game. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Friday game. I think. I mean, just the popularity between the two National Player of the Year candidates. Caitlin just won it today, but just think about the matchup. Obviously, they're not guarding each other, but just the two in the same exact game is just going to create so much viewership. Just so much eyes on that game. It's going to be really exciting to watch.
All right, let's switch gears to the Iowa men. Literally right after we got done recording last week, talking about what Iowa needed to do with their or could potentially do with their roster going into the offseason. Aaron Eulis and Josh Agundale announced that they were going to transfer, or both of them go into the transfer portal. What did you think of that? I mean, I don't feel like we were too in depth on either one of those guys in that conversation last week, but how does that change things for you, if at all?
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to our last week. I mean, it sucks that it happened literally right after we recorded, but I mentioned a little bit about Aaron Eulis, how he had to be a key factor for the upcoming years because they really need a consistent point guard to be able to carry them, especially in late games, and excel to make a run deep in the tournament. So I think him transferring isn't that huge of a deal because either A, they'll develop one of the guards that are coming in, or Bowen will step into a bigger role. So it kind of be a refresher at the point guard position for Iowa. Or 2, they'll just get heavily in the transfer portal and find a veteran guard to kind of shift and take that spot, which I wouldn't be surprised that happens. Knowing Fran, however, this is the only thing I'll say about him getting in the transfer portal. He's very selective on his guards and his point guards and shooting guards, I feel like. And because I think it's such a big – they're huge positions for the way he runs his offense. So I think he's very selective on who he wants running his offense. So I would be honestly, I'd be very shocked if he goes out like he has some of these wing players and big guys. And, I've been looking at a lot of these players, a lot of different guys across the country that he does the same thing for guards. I think he'll be a lot more selective on who he brings in the program because I mean, obviously the point guard and shooting guard, those guard position is what runs teams, and they're the leaders of the team. So I think he'll be really selective on those guys. But Agandala, I'm not surprised that he's transferring. I mean, he's a guy that hasn't played much and hasn't been getting a lot of minutes.
What do you think that it's a situation where if he's going to go and get a guard, maybe he would try and get a younger one that would be with the program for more than theoretically could be with the program for more than 1 year, or do you try and go and get an older veteran,
I don't think he's really looking at age too much. I think he's just trying to find the right fit for his
Yeah.
offense. I wouldn't be shocked either way. I could see him getting a veteran guard. I mean, he went in and got Bakari Evelyn was it 3 years ago, and he played really. I mean, I think 22 minutes a game, so he played a lot of minutes that year. Transferred out of Valpo, veteran guard, played 1 year. So I think as long as it's the right fit, I don't think he's gonna really discriminate between the two, whether it's a veteran or a younger age player.
It's going to be interesting to see some of or what happens with some of these guys that have gone into the portal over the last couple of weeks that are transferring for the second time, knowing that the NCAA has said that they're not going to grant waivers for any guys that are transferring for a second time.
Yeah, I mean, let's just face it. The NCAA. I'll touch on this. I've been following There's a case going on right now, hearing, and there's a lot of reporting done today on it.
In Congress, yeah.
In Congress, yeah, with NIL and transfer portal, everything surrounding college basketball landscape right now, and the Energy and Commerce Committee. I'm just tired of the leadership that's occurring. They continue to get guys that are just hiding behind the ideologies that the NCAA wants them to have fit. I mean, they got a governor from was it Massachusetts or Maine? I can't remember.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Charlie Baker.
Yeah, Charlie Baker. And I mean, he came on an interview with CBS, and I don't know if you saw the exchange that Charles Barkley had after they got done interviewing him, and he was asking for consumer protections. Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, just more kind of, I guess, restrictions and oversight done for NIL, which makes sense. I mean, I think there needs to be for the most part, but the things that he was talking about is just continue hammering that Congress needs to help NCAA. They need to get involved. They need to pass bills and legislation to get things done for the NCAA. And he's just basically doing exactly what Mark Emmert doing, just begging for help from Congress, and he's trying to do exactly what Mark Emmert did for years on end, and that ultimately hurt so many athletes that came through, not only for NIL but just being marketable. I mean, you think a guy like George Niang, he would have been making so much money at Iowa State, and all these guys. Obviously, he has a great paying job now in the NBA, but there's so many people that lost out on so much money through the years because of what they kept doing with Congress, and it's almost like deja vu is occurring. Like he's coming in and just taking the exact position as Mark Emmert, and it's honestly a tragedy.
I mean, I think it makes it clear that the NCAA president probably is is just a mouthpiece, the same way that the NFL commissioner is a mouthpiece for the owners. Like he's spouting what the board of governors tells him, and the board of governors hasn't changed any of their stances on where they feel about any of these things. What do you think of the idea of the registry, where you have to register your income and it's like public information?
I don't necessarily disagree with it, just because if you look at like the university, like coaches at the universities, right? Like they're state employees, so like you can look up their income, you can see what they're making. I'm not necessarily
not for endorsement deals though. If they had an endorsement deal with somebody, then you can't get that contract.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's kind of what I was getting at. If you look at that, you can see their income from like what they're getting from the university, right? However, there's endorsement deals that are involved with a lot of coaches across the country, especially the high level universities out there. They're paying big bucks for some of these
especially in basketball.
Yeah, especially basketball. So I don't necessarily agree with that end of it, because I mean, I look at it from in a couple of years, right, when athletic revenue sharing, it will be a thing. Just kind of just waiting on. I think there'll be a bill passed of one of the state levels within the next year or so, and that will kind of push the needle for it to occur, kind of like the NIL did a few years back. So when that happens, I think that's going to be obvious. Like they need to share what every athlete's making at the schools. I agree with that end, but I mean, we go down the line with endorsement deals. That is a third-party contract. That is not something that every athlete should be sharing, because at the end of the day, what does that necessarily matter when coaches like Nick Saban has a Diet Coke at every press conference because he's sponsored by Coca-Cola, but you don't know how much he's making? How is that fair for athletes to share the same?
Yeah, and it's one thing like if the athletes are are employees of the school and then are theoretically state employees, and then you can get their contracts that way. The same way that, and if there's any incentives that's in a contract or anything like that, like those things would be written out. I mean, that, and again, like you said, that would be the same thing as any coaching contract. You could get a hold of that stuff anytime you wanted to if you wanted to put a Freedom of Information Act request into one of the universities. And that's my issue with any of these things, because it's just private business. At that point, anything that's outside of that is just, and to me, if you force people to report their earnings from these things, aren't you taking away people's ability to negotiate if you're giving away what everybody is already making? And I feel like it's almost it's more of a ploy for schools to be able to not overbid and not pay more than what they can see somebody else is already willing to pay someone. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And especially they're 1099. Like most of all these businesses that are coming out as third party, they're 1099 these athletes, and it's a third party contract. Like what is it? The university, they're just doing this because the university is exactly what you're saying. They want more. They want continue to control these athletes on how they can handle them, what exactly other schools are offering. So they're trying to level the playing field from that aspect, and that's just something that should not happen, because again, it's a $1 billion industry, just from what everyone's been saying that's been fighting for college athletes since day one, that there's so much money wrapped around these athletes and they continue to try to restrict them. It doesn't make any sense. And you see that with the new leadership occurring. It's the same board of governors. Like nothing has changed. All the ideologies are the same. They're trying to restrict them. They're still fighting against NIL, Jared. Like it's just absurd to me. Not only NCAA, you see Charlie Baker coming out and saying how he's for NIL and college athletes making money, and observing their fair market value, right? But at the end of the day, the words that they say to the public is not aligning with what the actions they're occurring. The thing about the millions of dollars that the NCAA has continued to spend against college athletes protections years on end, every single year. They have an outrageous amount of lawyer fees every single year, and that's effectively negatively impacting the college athletes every year.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like some of the issues, especially they had a couple years ago with the women's tournament, and you consider how much they spend on lawyer fees. Like their priorities are so misguided on some level that it just is. I don't know.
2022, Jared, first year that women's basketball can use March Madness branding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how absurd is that to say out loud? 2022 is the first year that March Madness could be used in women's basketball.
Yeah, it's ass backwards, dude. It just is an ass backwards type of situation. I don't know, like the idea that they're trying to protect people from bad actors and stuff like that. I understand there's bad actors. Man, there's bad actors in everything, in every business that exists out there. And like these people that are making these deals and things like that are 18 years old, 19 years old, like legally. They're adults. If they run into a bad actor, I just don't think we can protect people that way. I don't know what good the university is going to do to protect somebody from a bad actor at the end of the day.
And if they want to do the protections, they got to look within the industry, right? I mean, we talked about this nonstop throughout the year, headlines with coaches throughout the country. There's always been the issue with health and safety with players and college athletes that, there's been numerous instances of players dying on campus workouts, or, there's been overworking issues. It happened at Iowa. A bunch of athletes went to the hospital for rhabdo. Like it happens all the time, every single year, and the NCAA they don't have any protections against that. I mean, you look at injuries that occur in college. Like there's players that deal with numerous injuries that occurred in college, but it happened 5 years down the road, and they don't have any protections. It's just absurd to me, and they're the bad actors. They're the ones that are trying to hide all the shady stuff by just continue to lobby against it, and it's a shame.
It is. It is. So do you think guys should, or I mean, any athlete should be able to transfer more than once for you know get your immediately eligible as many times as you want, or where do you stand on that?
I'm always with the athlete and their end of it. I think if there's no restrictions on coaches, there should not be any restrictions on the athletes. You look at like, okay, you're going to make a rule on a 2 transfer policy. Okay, what happens when a coach gets a job at a university or institution and that player transfers to that school, and then he's already been established at the school, right? And he transferred for the second time to go play with that coach, and that coach ends up leaving. Okay, that's just backwards because you're saying there's a restriction on athletes now, but the coach is just leaving again, and he can go wherever he wants. How is that fair to the athlete? If you want to be all about having a fair playing field, you're putting the coaches above on a pedestal compared to the athletes. Where one, the athlete isn't making any money from the university, I'd say, and the coaches are making millions of dollars just from the university, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think there might be a case for people who transfer 3 or 4 times, because I feel like that on some level goes against like the academic model of like being important when you had to go to 4 different schools, and I can't imagine all your credits are transferred and things like that. Like someone could maybe convince me there, but 2 times I don't have an issue with that.
But even 3-4, Jared, like you don't want to go against the academic model, right? Like, is anything that they do for college sports for the academic model? I mean, look at the conference being realigning, UCLA and USC joining, different conference, like UCLA coming to the Big Ten. Wait, UCLA and USC, correct? I'm not.
Yeah,
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 both those schools come to the Big Ten, right?
yeah.
That goes against the academic model. Iowa's gonna go and play a Wednesday night game now in California and miss class for 2 days now? That goes against the academic model. Coaches transferring or
Yeah.
going to a different school and take a larger contract. That's not right for the kids. That's not for the academic model.
Yeah. It's like I, I don't even
It's
know.
hard, and it's hard, like, there has to be a certain answer, but any answer, right, any solution that we have, like NIL, right? That was a good step forward for college athletes, but there's always gonna be right? There's gonna be
Hmm.
issues, there's gonna be bad actors, there's gonna be people making way more money, there's gonna be jealousy, there's gonna be transfers because fulfillment of promises aren't there. There's always gonna be something with any solution, so it's really a matter of what solution has the less amount of issues at this point.
And the cons can't be the thing that hold us back from doing what's right. You know,
Exactly.
like that's why I feel that way about the bad actors thing. The idea of these like theoretical bad people that are out there lurking in the shadows to scam college athletes should not be what keeps us from doing the right thing for people, and doing the right thing for athletes. And I don't know. It just is a weird. It is a weird deal. There's way too much feeling the need to protect people, all of the time for things that are again completely theoretical.
And I think like the argument has always been NCAA having that like they want to protect the athlete. They want to help them as much as possible to get ready for the next step of life. And they think that doing this is another step forward that they're fulfilling that promise, right? But everything they've done in the past has gone the complete opposite of what they believed and have said in the public. And it's at a point where everything they say in the public now, I don't understand how anyone can even favor the NCAA at this point because everything they've done has completely gone against their beliefs and their motto at the NCAA. There's no belief in that system anymore, and they have no right. They have no leg to stand on at this point.
Well, and that's why at the end of the day, like they know any case that gets brought against them in court, like they're losing, you
Right.
know. And that's why I don't understand why they continue to fight so hard in court and spend that much money on lawyer fees. Like why aren't you just willing to make the changes instead of like creating your organization in the courts, like just be willing to move forward, give in, you lost, it's over, just move on, and you can still play a role in college athletics on some level, but you have to be willing to play by different rules than what you've been playing before. And if you're not willing to, then something is going to change at a very drastic level.
And you look at the Alston versus NCAA case, people that followed that got decided last year, right? They spent probably was close to hundreds of millions of dollars for that case. I think it was a 12-year from the start that it got brought all the way to Supreme Court, right, Jared? Think about how much money they spent to fight against. It was just educational benefits. They had nothing to do with NIL. It obviously,
and how much they've spent lobbying Congress.
Exactly.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, a ton of money every single year. And that's money that has been earned by the NCAA athletes, not by them. They're using the money that they've made off these athletes to fight against the athletes. Like, how backwards is that? Because they're so money hungry that they want to continue filling their pockets. And they don't want to they want to continue playing by their rules no matter what. They spent all that money, Jared, in that 12-year case to get 9-0'd.
Mm-hmm.
How divided are we as a country, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
And they still got 9-0'd in the Supreme Court. 9-0. That never happens, ever.
It's not very often you can get 9 people of different ideologies to line up and all say, fuck that guy at one time.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And they're still going against it. They still want to talk about, Kavanaugh. People that read Kavanaugh's decision in that court case, he came out and just said how unfair their business practices have been. And there's a complete antitrust violation that is occurring. No one else can price fix in America other than the NCAA. And they have a monopoly. They have a cartel. He said all this stuff. That's a Supreme Court justice, and they're still fighting it.
Unfortunately for the NCAA, the only people with a lower approval rating than them might be Congress.
Right. And
and that's who they're turning to.
And that's who they're turning to, yeah. Most backward industry.
I loved the stuff about the Georgia congressman who came in wearing his dogs. He was talking about how the dogs have won the national championship next to the person with a Florida helmet sitting. Like, that's exactly what we needed. It turns out that Congress is just a big bunch of college sports fans.
Bunch of fans. They're a bunch of fans.
Yeah. And they're like the worst kind of fans too, probably.
Yeah.
Just, not the ones that are probably going to side with anything that anybody wants to actually see.
Or get anything done for the NCAA or for any.
They can't get anything done in general.
Exactly.
So to think they're going to get anything done. But see, that's what's funny about this is of all the things that Congress would get done, it would randomly be this.
Thing about college athletes.
Right. Like a thing that is actually in the grand scheme of our country is completely inconsequential, But they're like, hey, we got it done though. We got it done though. What can it? Hey, everyone, please applaud. It'd be it's the meme. Please clap. And we're all just sitting there like, hey, congratulations. We got through whatever the fuck this was.
And it took 15, 30 years for it to happen.
It took like 100 years. Let's be honest.
100 years.
Yeah, more than that. Oh man. Well, speaking of the NCAA, the NCAA tournament continues to be electric. Shout out to the tournament. We got the Final Four coming up this weekend. San Diego State and Florida and Atlantic in game number 1, and then UConn and Miami in game number 2. The Elite Eight games were all pretty great last week. We can talk about those just really quick. The San Diego State Creighton game was one of the most disgusting basketball games I have ever seen in my entire life, and it was hard to watch, man. And you hear like De'Aaron Fox talk about the shot making in college basketball, how it sucks and college basketball sucks and you can't watch it and all this kind of stuff. And then you watch one of those games and you're like, you know what? I think I kind of get it.
He knows what he's talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I understand where De'Aaron Fox is coming from.
You can directly relate it back to, I think officiating. I know we want to talk about this. How physical that game was, Jared, and they call that foul, a floater in the paint that he was off balance, and they Granted, there probably was a little push, but how it was officiated and you call that's how you end the game? An Elite 8 game to get to the Final Four. That's what you call. It
Yep.
blows my mind.
It's
Blows
just
my
a
mind.
weird time. It's just a weird time for a touch foul, after there hasn't been a touch foul the entire game. Like Ryan Kalkbrenner's down there getting absolutely mauled trying to go up for a bucket in the paint and can't get to the free throw line. And then they call that. That it was crazy to me.
I just feel bad for the kids because, I mean, that's what it comes down to. They got robbed of an over. That should have went to overtime. How disgusting that game was. No team deserved to win that the way San Diego State did. I would have said
Yeah,
the same thing if San Diego State got called for a foul too. No team deserves to win a game called a foul like that. That should have went to overtime.
they really stole it from the kids too, because that San Diego State team is on the Jordan Bohannon education plan. I think the entire roster,
Yeah.
all those guys are 5-6 years.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to throw that one in. Hey,
Stole it from the kids.
hey, a lot of guys go to school for 6 years.
All right, Tommy boy. San Diego State's sitting there like thinking it's like stealing candy from a baby out here to beating Creighton.
It's literally not. I mean, you look at it.
Creighton's a pretty veteran team too. To be honest.
I have a lot of respect for Coach McDermott, though. Like
Oh, for sure.
that team, dude. They were in shambles the beginning of the year, middle even to the end, and they figured it out. They went to the Elite Eight. How many schools can say they went to the Elite Eight? 8 teams in the whole country, and no one thought probably in the middle of the year they were even going to get to the round of 32.
San Diego State can defend though, man. Like those guys can get after you. That Florida Atlanta game is going to be interesting.
I think there's going to be heavily impacted on who is on the call for that game. Mark that on your calendars, put it in your notes, start researching officials. Whoever's assigned to that game, Jared, that game is going to be heavily impacted on the way it is officiated.
Well, lucky for you, we have the Final Four officials here. We can look at this list a little bit.
I want everyone to take note. The final name on the list.
We don't know which games these guys are working, but we do have the list. Your boy Paul Zelk jumps out to you. Who else here jumps out to you?
Big fan of Keith Kimball. I think he's one of the best refs in the NCAA, so I am happy to see him on the list. I don't mind John Higgins. I don't think he's that bad of a ref. Bert Smith, don't know him too well. Mike Reed, know him a little bit. Terry Oglesby, decent. Kissinger, Ayers has an agenda. Anderson, don't know that well. Reed.
What kind of agenda do you think Ayers has?
He's one of those guys that I don't know. Hate to I don't know. He's just if
You
you
don't want to
talk
expose
to him,
him.
if you talk to him, you just think there's something going on.
He's in the back of his mind sitting there thinking, I'm going to screw this guy so hard tonight.
Like while you're talking to him, you have a feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm about to get fucked. Like that type of feeling. Paul Zelk, it is actually, I want to know who he is talking to or what activities he is doing to these individuals for him to get on this list. Like, how the hell is he in the Final Four assignments? How? He is the worst ref, not only in the Big Ten, but might be in the whole NCAA officiating crew.
He's guaranteed to be on the championship game.
It blows. If he's on the championship game, I might be strolling to Houston and protesting outside with the big fire Paul Zelk sign. I might be out that door.
From this list, who's the Jordan Bohannon dream team of bad officials?
Ayers, Zelk. Third one's hard because there's a few decent guys.
What's the best case scenario crew?
Keith Kimball, Ayers if he doesn't have an agenda.
I like how you put him on both crews.
He's on either side of the spectrum. Like you don't know what you're gonna get, and that's what makes him so absurd, right?
He did some Iowa State games that had like 60 foul calls in them.
That's what I'm saying. And then he'll ref another game and they won't call a foul for 16 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty sure he did the Kansas game where they literally didn't call a foul on Kansas for 15
how does that
minutes.
happen?
Yeah.
How do you ref a totally different way? Keith Kimmel, Higgins for sure. I think they should get the championship game. I do like Higgins a lot.
Hollywood
deserves to be.
Hollywood's mistakes can always be chalked up to exhaustion at the end of the day, you know.
It's just I'm just really triggered about this whole Paul Zell assignment. Very angry. I'm very angry actually.
They've been listening to the podcast. They know how much you hate him. They're like, we're gonna ruin Jordan Bohannon's life.
This fucking guy teed me up on senior night. He almost threw me out.
Did you deserve it? What'd you say?
I said, blow your fucking whistle. I got mauled at the 3-point line.
Was that the first thing you'd said? Was that the first thing you'd said?
Well, I got fouled a few times to start the game, and I don't ever get a tech. I think that was my only tech. I got one technical in high school. That's when I chucked the ball at the ground and went up and hit the ceiling at Limar Gymnasium. But other than that, I've never gotten technical. That was the second technical I've ever got in my life.
I respect it.
Well, I got one in the G League, but that wasn't warranted. They took it back the next day.
Oh, they rescinded it?
Yeah, I didn't have to pay the fine.
I don't think the Big Ten would have rescinded that one.
No, not when you say blow your fucking whistle. That one might be on the automatic technical call list right there.
Yeah. That's up there with like calling someone a name or something like that. These officials, they're prideful. You know,
the thing is, they deserve to be called names sometimes. That's the thing. Like, that's how bad they are.
Right, it's like he heard you say that, and he's like, "This fucking guy's trying to show me up." You know, it's like, no, you really just want him to blow his whistle.
And the thing, I'm literally just it was a violent ask, but I was asking for you to blow your whistle. It wasn't that.
If you'd said, "Will you blow your whistle, please? Will you blow your fucking whistle, please?" Maybe it would have worked.
Please blow your fucking whistle.
Yeah.
That might have been a better way to go about it.
Then you're like, I said the magic word. What do you want me to say?
But the thing is, I was on the ground because first of all, I ended on the ground because he tackled me. And then I went I threw my fists I swiped my fists in the air as I was so that probably, from all ends, from actions to words, it wasn't a good look for me.
All right. Who wins that game? San Diego State, Florida Atlantic.
This might be a game in the low 50s. I like Florida Atlantic. I think they're the most together team. San Diego State is so good on defense, so it's hard for me to pick against them. But something about this Florida Atlantic team, man, like how open this NCAA tournament was, it's almost like they were destined to make this run. And honestly, they might win it. They could win it.
Man, that would be incredible.
Away. Yeah. 2 games away, an 8 seed.
Yeah.
Winning an NCAA tournament.
Be incredible. Miami, UConn. This game has the potential to make up for all the excitement that the first game might lack. Miami's guys just go out there and hoop, man. Like they are something else. And then they're never out of a game. And then UConn's just destroying people right now. I think this one has the potential to be a classic, but could be a dud if UConn is really rolling, I think.
Yeah, this is one of the games that could be a track race or it could be a game that's very slow and no one's really scoring the ball. The thing that worries me about Miami, Nigel Pack is arguably one of the best guards in the NCAA tournament. They rely on – he hit a lot of long threes on the road here, right? Like, he's a hooper, but I feel like UConn is more consistent on scoring the ball in more efficient ways. I would like to see there's an account called Shot Quality on Twitter. I'm curious to see and track their stats, how their shot quality has been Miami compared to UConn. People that are on Twitter, I recommend you follow Shot Quality. I think they're one of the best apps on Twitter because they literally break down the efficiency of these teams and their shot quality of their games. And
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, they probably have it on there.
Miami's number 7 in the country, averaging 1.18 points per shot, and then UConn is fourth at 1.19. So they're basically the same.
Yeah, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, two very good teams. They're in the Final Four, so they have to be taking really consistent good shots. But I think UConn, from that aspect, is going to pull away just because of their athleticism. Sonogo is a very, very talented inside presence. It's going to be a great game, though. I definitely like UConn, though.
Shit, I mean, here is a number that explains it. The rim and 3-point rate, so like the percentage of shots coming either at the rim or coming from behind the 3-point line. Miami is 221st nationally, which would tell me that they take a lot of mid-range jumpers.
Yep.
And then Connecticut is 82nd, which
Yep.
makes sense with the two guys that they've got, especially in the paint, what they're able to do, and then some of the shooters that they have to surround those guys. Miami just is they are a team that like for 30 minutes of a game could look like they showed up at open gym on a given day and just are like they're just out there playing ball, and they don't really seem to have any sort of plan. But then all of a sudden they look at the clock and they're down 6 and they're like, okay, I guess it's time to play now, and then they won't allow a point for 6 minutes.
Right. But that's what worries me. Like UConn has been inconsistent this year. I mean, you look on the dry spell they went on, losing games midway in conference play. But I mean, the way they're playing now, I mean, their last game they completely just steamrolled Gonzaga. Like it wasn't even close. So from that aspect of how they're playing, I don't see them losing to Miami, and I think they're in the championship game.
I don't think anybody's beaten UConn, honestly. No. Yeah, that team is those teams really good. They've been really good all year. I think there's a case to be made for all four. I mean, obviously they're like in the Final Four, but I think there's a case to be made for all four of these teams were underseeded to begin with in this tournament.
Oh, easily. But you look at the pathway for some of these teams, like for the most part, they haven't really played anyone to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously UConn has played some great teams, but I mean Florida Atlantic, they played a 16 seed in the round of 32.
Right. And barely won.
And then Sweet 16 they played I'm blanking.
They played
wow. Oh, who's the team they played?
Wow, we sound like morons.
Yeah, we are morons. They played Memphis, right?
That was the first round.
They
played Memphis in the first round.
How stupid are we?
They played either the 4 or 5.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so they played Tennessee, a team that missing their one of their point guards. Like they're not a healthy team, right? Very good team, but I mean, you go from playing an 8 seed to a 16 seed to a Tennessee team that's banged up. Kansas State's a pretty solid team. So
but you're playing Kansas State after Marquise Noel starts feeling himself because he had that big game. Marquise had a little bit of a Marcus Carr moment in that game.
I honestly, I was surprised how far Texas made it. Yeah. Speaking of Marcus Carr, I really thought their guard stepped up big time to make a run. I thought it was going to be the opposite direction where they're going to be very detrimental to their team.
It did kind of end up being the downfall in the end as Miami made their comeback. I mean, they just got really stagnant and really did a lot of dribbling the ball around.
Right. But back to the matchups. I mean, you look at San Diego State played Charleston, and they play a 13 seed to get to the Sweet 16. Like, not saying it's a cakewalk, but they play a Furman team. They win by 23 points, and they play an Alabama team that obviously is dealing with all their issues that they have. Obviously, they're probably one of the best teams in the NCAA tournament. And then they play a six seed Creighton team in the Elite Eight. So I mean, I don't know if the seeds were underseeded like you were talking about, but I mean, for the most part, it's kind of been a weird draw for a lot of these teams to get to the Final Four.
Let's talk about the shooting. I thought it was interesting after you and I had talked about that the balls in the tournament, and then people had laughed at us for our takes. The front page of ESPN yesterday was a story about the basketballs in the NCAA tournament, and in that story, it says the shooting in this tournament 31.9% from three so far this year in the dance, 31.8% last year. That's down from 33.7% in 2021. In 2022, Wilson rolled out their new NXE balls, which is the balls that they use now, the ones that are more orange. Again, they rolled them out in 2022. Last year, the 3-point percentages dropped 2%. And this year they stayed steady just the same. They continued to use the same basketballs. I'm just saying, like, if we want it, it just seems awfully convenient that this all of a sudden happened, that the 3-point percentage is just cratered after they switched to a different kind of ball. I'm just saying.
We're talking about the PSI levels. I mean, people are joking about that too. Like, they're heavily inflated basketballs. People that fill up the basketballs don't play basketball. They never have. And they're over there trying to make this a great tournament. Not saying they're not, but they're doing things that I think are damaging the game to being not saying the NCAA tournament isn't fun to watch either, but I don't know, tight rims, new court, new basket, new ball. I mean, that heavily impacts how people shoot the ball. I don't care what anyone says.
The best thing that could possibly happen for some of these things to be changed is for us to have like a 2011 championship game type of situation where it's San Diego State and UConn and the final score is like 45-41 and everybody's like, what the hell, why can't anybody score? And then the rules committee does some things this offseason where maybe they can try and shore up some of the rules and stuff like that, shore up some of the physicality, clean some of those things up, some directives to the officials, even though they'll never follow them. And then hopefully evaluate the ball situation, the hoop situation. Like, we should have to, if we want, like, why would we not want the best tournament in the country of any kind like this to not have everything be exactly how it needs to be? You know, like, why would we allow these things to hold it back?
I just don't know why they must be giving a hefty sponsorship to this Wilson company for that basketball.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it must be through the roof of how much money the NCAA is making off that company for them to use that basketball. I don't understand why. Use a different Wilson ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the NBA uses Wilson. Why don't you? And the ball we use is completely fine. And like, the G League ball we use is the same as NBA. I mean, I loved using it. I don't understand why it's so hard to figure out.
Yeah. And it's just use a different ball. Like, I don't think anybody's asking for that much. It was just a bad experiment, you know?
I mean, but things that make sense aren't really done to make sense by the NCAA.
Did you know that that Wilson is testing a 3D printed ball?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
It would like never need to be aired up again.
We already did that with the never flat Spalding ball that was supposed to revolutionize basketball. We used it on the playground. You never had to pump it up, but it was the worst basketball known to man.
You did have to pump it up. You had to like push the thing.
You got to push in and little needle. That was the worst. And then you dribble the ball and the needle would pop out. Like, who was the engineer behind that basketball?
I think that was Spalding. I think that was a Spalding thing.
Yeah, let's put a thumbnail where you flip it and a needle pops out. And let's put it on a basketball that you dribble it. And when you push in the needle, it pops out. So when you dribble it, it bounces on the concrete, pushes the needle, and then it pops out.
It seems like it could just be really simple, you know? Like, I don't know. Just use the same basketball that everybody's been using for however long. All right. Last couple things. Austin Ash participating in the 3-point contest, the college 3-point contest on Thursday. Can you guys go back to back?
How crazy would it be, Jared? We're both from Lynn County, Iowa. 2 back-to-back years. An athlete from Lynn County wins the 3-point contest. That's pretty incredible. That has the opportunity to have that happen.
Oh, it just happened to have ESPNU on today while around like 2:00, and the 3-point contest from last year was playing, and they had a statistic on there where they said you've played with 35 different guys, or you played with 35 different guys during your college career. I want to know how many guys you can name in 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute? When's the
Yeah.
timer
How
start?
many of the 35 can you start? Or can you name? Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Charlie Rose, Riley Till, Cordell Pemsel, Ryan Kriener, Peter Jock, Damiel, Ahmad Wagner, Nicholas Bear, Michael Bear, Keegan Murray, Chris Murray, Luka Garza, Connor McCaffrey, Patrick McCaffrey, Phil Baracha. Oh, shoot. Austin Ash. Shooting guards. Tony Perkins, Aaron Eulis, Josh Gondole, Riley Mulvey, Carter Kingsbury. Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble for not naming anyone. Who am I missing?
I mean, you're missing quite a few,
What am I
but
at?
you have gotten a lot. You've got 21. You've got 5 seconds.
Oh no, people are gonna be pissed off at me.
I mean,
Tyler
20.
Cook. I'm so
All right.
sorry, Tyler Cook.
I'll give you that one. All right, you finished with 22. I have no idea who you missed. I'm sure that those guys will let you know.
Tyler Cook, I'm so sorry. You barely made the clock though.
There's going to be somebody out there that's really obvious that they're going to be like, how the hell did he miss this guy? I mean, it took you until like 13 to say Luca, so.
I was just trying to go from freshman year. Oh my God, Joe Wieskamp. I'm so sorry, Joe.
Oh.
Isaiah Moss, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. Wow, that's actually kind of hard.
Man.
Than Murray's.
Yeah, he said that. I'm
Joe
sure.
Joe Toussaint, I love you, dude. I'm sorry.
At least you've gotten to, I think, 25 now in 2 minutes.
Well, this is gonna sound bad, but it's hard to remember the walk-ons because, like, obviously we see them every day. You play with them, but you don't play with them on the court. So, like, when you're naming, I'm going off like starters. Like, I'm trying to remember who I started with. I mean,
We'll cut you a break. We'll cut you a break.
If I had 3 minutes, I'd be able to name
You
them
played
all.
with Sanford, didn't you, last year?
Dane Sanford, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, he's another one. Yeah. I don't know. That's still pretty good. You got a lot of them.
If I had a little more time, I'd easily be able to make all the lists. That's a lot of teammates, though.
Did Brad Davison ever get you your round of golf?
No.
They kept talking about that on the broadcast. I was like, I wonder if this is a real thing. I need to get to the bottom of this.
Here's the thing about, because it just happened. I played against some guys, Lakeland Magic, where I knew really well. So I talked to them after the game. After every season, because it happened in college too, when you're done with your season, everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna get together, we're gonna play some golf, we're gonna hang out. You should come to my crib in Austin, we'll hang out for the weekend. And we're all like, yeah, let's do it. Like, this is gonna be so much fun. I can't wait. Like, we're gonna find some time in the summer when we're all free. And it never happens. Happens every end of the season where you say this to these ex-teammates or past teammates or past friends in the league. Never happens.
Well, I hope one day that Brad is able to get you back for that round of golf that he owes you.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope, because I'd kick his ass.
That's exactly the kind of thing that would probably motivate him to be like, oh, we're playing now.
I think he's underestimating how good I am at golf. He was talking a lot of shit.
That doesn't shock me. Frankly.
I mean, I don't know. I did beat him in 3-point contest, so he's not off a good start on competing against me.
No, he's not. All right, you wanted to talk about breakfast food.
Oh, we're actually gonna fit this topic in? Yes.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. So, I'm just thinking as I was having my breakfast today at the hotel in Chicago, when did breakfast food become a thing? Like, what made a pancake a breakfast item? What made eggs I'm gonna have for breakfast? And they're a breakfast food. What made waffles? Like, waffles are a breakfast item and you can only have them during breakfast time. Who decided that? And why is that person in charge of deciding what food we can have at certain times of the day?
Wow.
And
Okay.
what
So there actually
outside
is
of breakfast too. There's dinner items, there's like, why can't you have chocolate cake for breakfast?
there's actually a very surprisingly specific answer to why pancakes are a breakfast food or
I'd
what
love to
made
hear
them a
this.
breakfast food. In the 1780s, American cooks started adding the chemical leavener pearl ash to their pancake batter. The rising agent transformed the delicate crepe-like rounds suitable for sopping up the remnants of a meat stew into a thick, fluffy, satiating fare perfect for a filling breakfast. The long surprising
Satiating.
history. Yeah, satiating. That's a tough one.
That is a huge word.
What? I'm not going to pay for National Geographic.
1780, that's when they said.
That's what they say. Yeah. History.
How much do we believe? I'm not even gonna go down this rabbit hole. How
The
much do we
ancient
really?
Greeks made pancakes.
Oh, we want Greeks and goddesses. Should we go down this route
No,
again?
we're not going down this road again.
Okay. But I think it's a fascinating topic, right, Jared? How did breakfast become breakfast?
The Middle English word pancake appears in English in the 15th century. So in like the 1400s, in the 1400s, that's how long they've been making pancakes. I don't trust anything about history from back then. That's too long ago.
About anything?
No, I mean I don't know about anything, but like there's a lot of things, like you could tell me anything. If you said it started within the 1400s, I would probably believe any story you told me. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Sure. Seems plausible. Like I swear they just made shit up. And these people were drunk half the time. Like let's keep this in context as well. Like you read things that the sports writers wrote about athletes like in 1922. Like, how much can we? I know that all the sports writers were drunk in 1922. How much of this
1922?
stuff can we believe? Like it, even in like the 1950s,
Wasn't
there
that the
really is a.
prohibition like era?
Uh,
The 20s? The roaring
yeah,
20s?
okay. I mean, I don't know. You don't know what I'm saying. There's pretty much a clear point before like 1975. I feel like that's when I think the sports writers decided to sober up during the games, and that's when we can start to trust their analysis.
Well,
You
I'll tell
notice
you
that the
what.
modern eras all start then.
Well, I'll tell you what, the officials for games haven't sobered up yet, so still waiting on that one. It's been a while.
No, everybody used to be drunk. The players would be drunk. The coaches would be drunk. Like the players are back in the locker room smoking heaters in between quarters. You know,
Sounds electric.
it's something. Have you ever seen the picture of Len Dawson smoking a cigarette and drinking a Fresca in the
Oh, yeah.
halftime locker room of the Super
Yep.
Bowl? Like that was what we thought of as athletic training. You know.
I don't know. That's a pretty strong assessment of not believing any history from way
I'm
back
just
then.
saying. I just think that sometimes these writings we could probably put a little less merit into them.
Do you believe George Washington was the first president?
Well, I mean, yes, I believe that George Washington is the first
I
president.
don't
Some of these
know.
things are easy to record, but the history of the pancake, you can't tell me the history of the pancake. We don't know who invented the pancake. We don't know that. Who invented the hamburger? We don't know that. Like,
Well,
no one can ever
what's
know.
the difference between like Ben Franklin inventing electricity? It's the same concept.
I mean, I don't think that he invented electricity. I
Well,
think
the
that
light
that's
bulb. Sorry, light bulb.
he also did not do that.
Yes, he did.
That was Thomas Edison.
Oh, okay. Edison, I mean. Franklin got struck by lightning.
Well, Thomas Edison doing that was only like 150 years ago. Like that wasn't that long ago, and it wasn't written by drunk sports writers.
We were just talking about the 1920s, though.
Yeah, because that was the drunk sports writers. I don't trust them. Like when they talk about
Thomas Edison was a lot farther than
when they talk about
150 years.
how fast like Walter Johnson could throw a baseball or like how fast someone could run. Like I don't trust those things. What a running back was like. They would use some weird crazy language and then you'd be like, "Man, what is this guy talking about? This guy must be incredible."
Crazy language. They would say the same thing. If a person from back then saw us now and listened to us, they would say the same thing about us.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they would just think we sound like idiots.
Yeah. So would they believe? But I guess we have better technology now to report it.
Well, I mean, we can just record everything. We don't
Yeah.
need to, we don't need to be the people of record. You can look it up on the internet,
How weird are we now, though? You look at the history of human beings, we record everything like on video.
Right. Like there was a point in time where we didn't feel it necessary to just like take note of everything and have everything be saved somewhere,
Yeah. Like every sporting event, you see phones out, they record. They're not even in their moment
No
anymore.
one will ever wonder what it was like to watch LeBron James play basketball. You will be able to watch every LeBron James basketball game that you ever would want to watch.
So
But
really,
there's a lot of people out there who will always wonder what it was like to watch Wilt Chamberlain play basketball,
so really, do you believe anyone, let's say, writing a book about a moment because we're not in the moment anymore? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel like those are pretty exhaustively researched, but it depends on the situation. I just think generally like we just put too much trust in some of these people that are like from 100 years ago,
But I feel like
before we could really like have any proof of
they
things.
know the moment, but you're not understanding what I'm saying. Like a person visiting like America for the first time, right? They're not on their phone recording it all. Like they're taking all the sense in, they're taking the views in, they're taking all this in and they're experiencing it and they're writing it down in their little notepad, right?
Yeah.
Now, if a Asian travels to America, they record everything, right? So
It
do
could all
you
be fake.
really
It could all be fake. That stuff from the past could be fake.
I'm just waiting for officials to sober up. I guess that's the conclusion from our rant here.
I just want all of history to sober up.
Well, we can't go back for that, so
That's why we need time machines. We need time travel just so that we can figure out how drunk everybody was back then. It's like now we're the weird ones. Like we're the first. That's why everybody has so much anxiety and things like that. We're the first. We're the first like true society that wasn't just drunk all the time.
I don't know about that. I feel there's more factors than alcohol for anxiety.
Well, yeah, and then we have the phones and all those kinds of things. I was
Yeah.
just kidding. I'm not being serious about that.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, to an extent, I'm being serious, but that I do think that there's a lot of other factors. Like to say that they're both directly connected would be, I would not be serious about that.
So to conclude, we have no idea why and
No, we have no idea
how
about pancakes. We have
yeah,
no idea.
or breakfast in general, why
No,
that's a thing.
no. I think that breakfast just started because breakfast is the first meal of the day.
I
I don't.
understand that, but, like, what made the food a part of breakfast food?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think we'll ever have an answer because I just don't think that that's something that can be like
But there
historically
had to be
proven.
someone be like, "Hey, eggs and bacon. How delightful does that taste in the morning?"
Yeah, someone who was probably starving and had a pig and a chicken and nothing
See, now we're
else.
getting somewhere. Now this ma that was a great answer. Now I
But how
understand.
can we like we don't know where that came from,
So,
or
like,
when
someone's
that
like a
was.
farmer came in, "Hey, I'm gonna go kill this pig in the back," right when he gets up in the morning, and then that's what we're gonna eat in the morning.
That could have happened in like the time with cavemen, you know, and we've just been eating eggs and bacon for basically all of human history.
Well, yeah, but what made it breakfast food? What point did it be like, "Gets his breakfast food"? Like Perkins, like, there's specific restaurants that have breakfast food, right?
I bet that there is some sort of connection to American consumerism that probably plays a significant role.
So now you're getting too in depth here.
Well, it's just like in like somebody started a restaurant and said this is breakfast food, this is what we sell, and then people copied that, and then now that's like what we do.
I don't know. I
And this
think
was when we were still a developing country, so you could like have new ideas and shit. Now
you're saying we can't have new ideas?
we don't have any new ideas
There's
anymore.
a new
Everybody's just
idea every
copying
day.
somebody.
Watch
Everybody's just
Shark
copying
Tank.
somebody else.
Watch Shark Tank. There's a new idea every day.
Oh, believe me, I watched, and even the people on there are like, man, sometimes I'm not sure we need any more new ideas.
Oh yeah, it gets to that point. I agree. But there is new idea. That's still an idea.
Anytime that and that's the funny thing. Anytime you think of something though, it's like, oh man, this should be a thing, and then you immediately look it up, and it's probably already a thing.
Yeah, that's true. But that's what makes new ideas so profitable nowadays.
What's our new idea? What should we come up with?
A juice the refs drink before games to sober up.
Oh man.
Honestly, though, think about like,
I opened a rabbit hole.
yeah, I won't even go down. I was about to say something crazy.
I opened a rabbit hole talking about history. All right, man. We'll talk to you next week. You think UConn wins the title?
Yeah, I think it's a UConn Florida Atlantic title game, and this could be a title game that either I think it's like a 30-point win by UConn.
Fair enough. All right, we'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.